I'm rooting for you this weekend. Or this week. You don't have any big things after Friday, do you?
Got a funeral
Oh,
Saturday.
that's great.
Yeah.
I'm sure outdoors is everything. I walked in the sanctuary at the church on Saturday, and I guess people put out a bunch of Easter lilies and stuff.
Okay.
Like, it smells like Easter in here.
Lilies are one of the major things that I'm allergic to.
Yeah.
So every Easter, particularly if I'm doing a service at a church,
Where they don't know you.
I mean, it's quite emotional because I just have tears and goop running down my face.
I remember that important Bible verse where Jesus said, "There must be lilies upon my rising." It was very important to him.
Yeah.
I think that was Mark chapter 17.
Yeah, the afterthought of Mark.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So how should we use our time?
So, when we talk in class about how we act in front of family or reverting to our childhood states and family, is that like a common thing? Because I don't know if I just don't pay attention to it, but I don't get that at all. I see family members that do that, but I don't feel that way.
It is pretty common.
Is it common not to feel that?
Well, I mean, maybe, we talk about the family patterns of functioning, and at least in bone theory, we think of it as things that sometimes are problems for us, and that raise our anxiety or some of those things. But sometimes family patterns can just be very comfortable, and it's like wearing a nice pair of slippers,
Yeah.
or something. It just we go back and I can remember going home and visiting my parents and just going into the kitchen while Mom was fixing dinner, and she had a little stool that was in the corner, and I would just sit there and watch her and talk to her while she was fixing dinner. And I did that from about this high, until she wasn't able to fix dinner anymore. But and it was just a pattern that was just very comfortable and very safe. And maybe that's something that you experience. I don't know. It'd be interesting to kind of reflect on that next time you go home and notice if there's what strikes you about being home and being with family, and whether maybe you're just naturally resistant to people trying to put you in a place where
Well, that's
they
sort of
don't
what
know.
my question is today. Am I, or am I just oblivious?
I can't answer that.
when people do it.
I can't answer that. But maybe you aren't aware of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to go back to your family next time and just self-observe, observe patterns that they're engaging in, and say, boy, this hasn't changed in 25 years or whatever, and say, and just wondering, feeling your position in all of that. It's like, is this where I always am? Is this what I'm always doing?
I mean, there's definitely
Yes.
patterns that I do now. I just don't think it's the same as when I was a child. I think patterns have definitely changed. And so I don't get that feeling of feeling like I'm back at square one. I guess would be a good way to put it. I look at my family of origin, and it looks a lot different now than it did when I was a kid. I mean, my parents are basically raising a whole new family now that my sister lives with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been since 2012. So less than a year after I moved out permanently from their house, they sort of started all over, and so I don't.
Well, that may be significant enough to
Yeah,
change
it might change the
the
dynamics.
dynamics.
So I don't.
I don't know.
Although I see my little brother come home and he'll bring up, "This is exactly how you treated me when I was a child." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Nobody's treating you this way, Chappie. So I see it happen still in my house with other people. I just don't feel it myself, which is just something I've noticed talking with other people. There definitely are still family patterns. I just don't think they're the same.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it would just be interesting for you to intentionally just sort of self-observe and observe the patterns next time you're around, and to see what you notice.
Yeah.
That would be. The other thing is to ask Katie and say, "Am I different when I'm around my family? And what does that difference look
That's
like?"
a good question. Mm-hmm. That's a good question, I think. I think the one family member I could maybe see being different around is my older brother Frank. We have a different dynamic, which is a comfortable dynamic, like putting on the slippers.
Mm-hmm.
We get along well together, but I'll have to pay attention when I see him next. We'll probably have plenty of opportunity to do that this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, oftentimes our spouses, particularly ones that have known us a long time, and she's known you and your family a long time, they're usually quite perceptive, our spouses.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And maybe more so than we are about the dynamics. I mean, you probably notice things about her family that she's blind to, or not as objective about.
Definitely not as objective about it. I can say certain things about her family and it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, we've been with each other most of our lives at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I think her family would like to put me in a different place when I go see them, and I don't really let them do that either.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Sort of as that person who they would like to see as a son sort of character. Because they don't like the other son-in-law.
I've had that sort of same feeling with my in-laws as well. That, it's amazing when Brenda and I first were together and started dating. There's nothing I could have done to satisfy her father. Nothing. Not a thing. Because she was his little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And there was definitely a daddy-daughter dynamic
Mm-hmm.
there, but over the years that has shifted quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's almost laughable, that kind of thing. But you know, Brenda's older brother is divorced, and now her younger sister is divorced, and so I'm the last outlaw standing, I guess.
I think that's how it was with my mother's family.
And, so I think they like me.
Mm-hmm. My parents, out of 5 kids, are the only people in my mom's family who didn't get a second marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I have 5.
Hmm.
Her little sister, I'll give it to her. She's been widowed twice. But Yeah, out of 5 marriages, is the only one, and he was the least liked at the beginning, it seems. Yeah, his family patterns are fascinating, and Katie probably would be the best resource. Probably even better than me. I can self-observe some, but I think she'd be a really good resource to ask about that. Do I act differently? What do I do? At her house, I can't do anything wrong. It's easy.
Mm-hmm.
They think I'm perfect because I have a job.
Yeah. I always got the impression. The first time I met my father-in-law, I had hair down here, and I was an actor, you know, a theater major.
A real winner.
A real winner. And, you know, I could just picture, you know, what his thought. You know, sometimes you can read people's thought processes. And, you know, his was just plainly obvious. I don't like this guy. I just do not like this guy. He's an actor, you know. And he's got all that long hair. And when I finally told him, I said, you know, I'm not going into acting professionally. I want to be a pastor. I was also like, that doesn't make me feel a whole lot better. No, he's gotten used to it. I think he thought I would never be able to provide well enough for his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
What the heck, she's provided pretty well for me, so.
That's a good way of putting it. we need people to help take care of our pastoring habit.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Benevolent supporters.
That's right. We need our supporters for our addiction to doing things that don't pay well. But.
Mm-hmm. One of these days.
That's right. That's right. The world will observe. Clergy have been put upon for far too long, making meager amounts of money.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just curious about that and wondering how normal it was not to have those feelings.
Yeah. I don't know how normal it is not to have them, because I hear about the other side much more often. So, but you know, again, they just may be such comfortable patterns.
Yeah.
And you know, and I think Bowen would say that there are good things that get passed down in families, and important things. There are traditions that ought to be kept, and
The family is not the enemy.
The family's not the enemy. You know, there are parts of it that affect how we function, and maybe some of that's not so great. Maybe some of it's very good and very comfortable, but yeah, but I think it's up to each generation, each individual within that family to be able to decide for themselves. You know, what are the patterns that I got from my family that are helpful to me in my present life and my ability to be in connection with other people, and what are those things that I really cherish, you know, in my family, and things that I wouldn't change. And there's, you know, I've got my own gripes and stuff with family dynamics, but I don't know that I would really change all that much. Yeah, you know, I used to think that being the only boy with 3 sisters was a you know, like being because I saw my friends who had brothers, and they were beating the crap out of each other and having fun, and
it's great.
and all of that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't be the person that I am had I had a brother or two brothers or whatever. And I'm very thankful to have had sisters. So I don't know that I would change now any of that. So.
All right.
So yeah, part of the problem with any kind of personality theory or psychological theory is that it's geared towards thinking about the problems and the negative. And and I think we do need to face those things and think about those things and deal with those things. But I think we get more out of community and family that is worthwhile. And I mean, there's some pretty terrible families out there, but on the whole, I think that we get a lot of our strength, a lot of our resolve, our resilience, our problem-solving abilities, our values and our virtues coming out of family and out of community. So, I think there's a lot of good that happens in family. But that doesn't give me the excuse that I don't need to examine those patterns that are problematic. Yeah, I overfunction.
Yeah.
I try to please my dad, and will always try to please my dad. And wish I had been affirmed more by my dad, but he probably wasn't affirmed by his dad, and probably struggled with that. And so the best thing I can do is not to do that to my son. And not blame my father for it.
Yeah.
And say, he was probably doing the best he could do with what he had.
And just hope our sons say, he was probably just doing the best
he
he could.
That's right.
With whatever we inevitably mess up
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So what was I watching? I was watching something on TV this week, and it just brought up the father-son dynamic of when your father is your first hero. Yeah, that's right. The father is the first hero, and then by the time we're teenagers and adolescents, we see our father's faults and our father's vulnerabilities and frailties. But later on in life, when we come to the realization that Dad did the best that he could with what he had, he's a hero again. So, and not not one wearing a cape, but one taught me how to hit a backhand or on a tennis court, or the one who'd play catch with me in the backyard, or those kinds of things that he did the best that he could. I only cried when I graduated from college. He couldn't say, I'm proud of you, but he cried. So.
Yeah. What else is going on in my life? Well, the doctor's appointment went good.
Great.
It's just one baby, thank God.
Good.
Yeah, I've told Katie, I think I'm probably done after a second one, which she's not really on board with. And I'm like, if there's two, I'm definitely done. End of discussion.
We're tying the suckers off.
That's right. Baby's healthy.
Good.
Everything looks good. She's 7 weeks and 2 days. And looking at around November 10th as a possible due date.
It's Martin Luther's birthday.
There we go. I will remember that. Maybe that could fit into a name.
We have a Wesley and a Luther.
Yeah. What do we need after that? Like a Zwingli?
Like Zwingli.
Protestant?
That's right. You got
a Calvin?
a Calvin. Calvin Chapman.
Calvin Luther? Yeah. Assuming it's a boy.
That's right. That's right.
We'll have to think of one of the many great classical female theologians.
Saint Teresa of Avila.
Yeah. Trying to think of the Cappadocian brother-sister's name.
Oh my God.
Gregory of Nyssa.
Gregory
and,
Nyssa, yeah.
I can't remember her name now. But she was important too, dang it.
She was.
She invented the nunnery. Is that what they're still called?
Convent.
Convent?
Yeah.
That's the word. Yeah. Your class is watching, appalled at my lack of gender-inclusive words. So yeah, I'm feeling better about figuring out second child at this point. It's funny because this was sort of the plan when we started.
Mm-hmm.
And then after we had Wesley, I was like, we could probably wait longer. And then we accidentally stuck to the original plan.
Yeah.
I'm a very good planner, apparently. We said
Yeah.
around 18 months to 2 years. We'll figure that out. 21 months.
Yeah. Figured out.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we're both feeling better about that. We still have a lot of stuff to figure out.
So what kind of worries and anxieties do you have with this second pregnancy that you, maybe there's a recap or
Well, I remember paying for Wesley's birth up until he was like over a year old.
okay.
And so that's more in the front of my mind than
Sure.
it was with the first one, because the first
Okay.
one you're just excited about a baby and you don't really think about costs and stuff, I
Yeah,
think.
but now you know they're expensive.
So that's probably the thing that's closest to the front of my mind. After that is, 1 is a lot, 2 is twice as much of time, of figuring out routines, of a whole lot of stuff. So I worry about coordinating a little bit, especially with my tendency to overfunction with work. How do I do a better job of not just leaving it all on Katie some days?
What are you thinking about that? I assume your little wheels have been turning about different
Mm-hmm.
things that you might want to try or think about.
Well, thankfully, Katie's work, it's like all this stuff happens right on time. Katie's work, they decided to buy the old lease the old Social Security building.
Oh, over on Williams and
Yeah, that's where they are. They're back there.
Okay.
But they're going to lease another building in there.
Okay.
And in that building, they're going to have an employee daycare,
Uh-huh.
which is great, which means Katie will be able to work more. I'm not sure about what ages are able to be in that daycare or what the rules on that are. But that makes me feel better about figuring at least Wesley out, or this other baby.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that in the fall we can start preschool and stuff with Wesley, opening us up a little bit more maybe. There's seems to be some options even while we got to figure out a whole nother kid.
Yeah.
So that's in my mind. And at the same time, whether I stay where I'm at this year or not, I'll probably end up moving after next year. Just because hopefully I'll be ordained next summer. I still have to go through a bunch of interviews and maybe get continued again. But my boss said if I'm comfortable being continued, which I told him I was, then I should go before the board and try it. He says I'm doing more continuing education than probably anybody else going through this process, so that's helpful. I said, oh, neat. And I just don't know if I'll be at the same church as going into 2019. The churches I'm at are fine, it's just I don't think they're long-term fits for me. They're a good place to be right now. And I think I've bought another year, like I said earlier, at those churches with all the stuff I'm doing on the side.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you see that? I mean, how? You know, I'm not exactly sure how the Methodist Church handles non-traditional calls.
Neither are we.
Okay.
No, we are. That for me, that would be extension ministry.
Okay.
The person I'm working with on this project, Rhonda, she's technically in extension ministry as the vice president over at Shenandoah. She's still in full connection, for an elder anyway. We have a whole nother order of pastors who typically do that stuff, which is what Heather does. She's a deacon. That's what my wife is working towards, is work as a deacon. And yeah, those are people who sort of feel more called to areas of church leadership outside of the local church.
Okay.
And elders can do that as well. It's just you enter into extension ministry and you got to get approved for it and that sort of stuff.
Is it hard or?
No, I mean if there's a legitimate ministry, they'll say they're all about it. If it's a good legitimate ministry. The thing that worries me a little bit is I'm kind of creating a, I might be creating an appointment.
Mm-hmm.
And that might not work out. Or it might work out. I don't know. There's still a lot of unknowns with this whole process, but we do know what we're doing now and what it looks like. As we continue to plan and figure out what's best for the church and what's best for the community and the university. I'm looking forward to having more conversation about that in the coming days. Tomorrow and Wednesday are going to be really busy days that have nothing to do with Holy Week almost.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning I'm going to frantically try and write all my sermons and get all my bulletins done and stuff like that. And then after that I'm just going to be busy with this thing for the next 24 hours or so.
So, again, I guess my question from earlier today maybe still exists is, you're imagining that there is going to be some clarity
Yeah.
after this week?
There'll be more clarity.
Okay.
I think this week is where we will talk to my district superintendent and let him know that there might need to be new appointment types made.
Mm-hmm.
It still doesn't give me a ton of clarity because he's not going to be the one making those appointments. By the time that comes up, it'll be the new district superintendent.
And who gets to talk to him? The outgoing superintendent would then sort of do a handoff, or do you get a chance to present to him?
I mean, we're going to have to present to him at some point and meet him. I don't know him other than through reputation, but he sounds like the sort of person who would be just as invested in this type of ministry as the outgoing superintendent. He got his doctorate a few years ago in 21st century Christian leadership. which I think looks like what we're talking about. So I feel good about that.
Okay.
He just finished pastoring at a church where Rhonda was for 8 years. So I feel good about some of the connections we already have. And I think some of that information will be passed off to him via Larry. Larry's got a whole district's worth of information to give this guy, though, so we'll probably have to do some of that presenting on our own.
Sure.
As well, as we get to know him here in a couple months. But Larry, our district superintendent, he's not the only district superintendent who's really pushing for this new type of ministry. It seems like a lot of district superintendents are invested in this, as well as the new bishop. And she's only been around about a year, but she's all for trying and pushing to do new things. So I'm not worried that it won't be well received. I'm worried about what kind of hubris I will look like I have when I meet the new district superintendent and tell him about all I've been doing that might not sound like it's my call to him.
Mm.
And I think I can frame it in a way, though, that will still make it look like this isn't something I'm just doing because I feel like doing it.
Yeah. So, yeah.
What we have now looks a lot different than what my original vision was. In some ways it looks grander, and in some ways it looks more attainable.
Mm.
I'm not sure which one it is.
Yeah, so it sounds like that Shenandoah University has a major portion of the plan in being
They would.
yeah.
That being said, they haven't committed to it yet either. There's a lot of people at Shenandoah who are excited about this type of plan and this type of work, but at the same time they don't have any money to spend on it right now. Because I don't know if you noticed, they just built a whole bunch of stuff, and they're still in the process of building a whole bunch of stuff. So even while they are solvent, they don't have a whole bunch of money to go spending on new initiatives right now.
The baseball team just got creamed by Roanoke College too over the weekend. That's
What a bummer.
another thing.
We'll just wait till the World Series. Yeah, we'll just wait till the playoffs.
Okay, we'll just wait.
Yeah, so there's still a lot of work that has to be done on both sides. The church's side, which is mine, and the school side, which is Rhonda's. And we're both somehow